But first, let us be frank. The Prime Minister is a liar and a thief. His character is now going to be a big issue at the next election. Whether you like the tax changes that Anthony Albanese announced today at the National Press Club, or whether you're one of the 1 million Australians who's robbed, either way, he is a thief and a liar.
Today I announce that from the 1st of July this year, our government will deliver a tax cut for every single Australian taxpayer.
So he's going to give extra tax cuts for lower income taxpayers, but paying for them by scrapping half the tax cuts he promised to higher income earners before the election.
People are entitled to have that certainty of the tax cuts that have been legislated.
Do you remain committed to them, and will you continue to support the Stage 3 tax cuts?
They've been legislated, we support them, we stand by that. My word is my bond.
His word is his bond, he said. Well, never again. The opposition is right.
The Prime Minister has knowingly and willingly lied to the Australian people. And I don't think the Australian people will easily forget or forgive.
We have a liar in the lodge.
Now, the liar bit is obvious. Journalist after journalist today asked Albanese to admit the obvious. He'd broken his promise. How could anyone trust another promise he'd make?
Do you accept that this was a lie, and why should Australians trust that you won't lie to them again?
What Australians can do is to trust me to make the right call, not the easy call.
But the question wasn't, is this good or bad policy? It's, do you believe you lied? You maybe think...
Well, what I did was absolutely say, I have announced when we have changed our position. We have changed our position.
Can you name any of your election promises you are not now prepared to break?
This is a change in position.
Will you rule out bringing in a retirees tax or any changes to negative gearing?
We changed the position on Tuesday. We have changed our view.
Albanese there couldn't admit he'd broken a promise or admit he wouldn't break another. Who'd believe him if he did anyway? Now Albanese today said, well, he had to break his promise on the Stage 3 tax. Did I say break his promise? Sorry, change his position. Big difference. Because, you know, he did it because world events, things he didn't foresee until, golly, just this week, actually.
Every Australian knows that we've had to deal with a global pandemic, the first recession in 3 decades, damaged supply chains, conflict in Europe and the Middle East, rapid increases in the price of food and energy, and ongoing worldwide economic uncertainty. The cost of living pressures facing Australians on low and middle incomes demand a better tax policy.
Oh, that's nonsense. He's panicking. His government's getting on the nose. He's facing a by-election in the mortgage belt seat of Dunkley in Victoria. In just 1 month, the polls seem to suggest he's in trouble. This is just throwing money at the lower middle class by taking it from the upper middle class. But I said he was not just a liar, but a thief. That's because a key part of the changes he announced today to the promised Stage 3 tax cuts designed by the Morrison government was to keep the 37% tax bracket. That's the second highest. Now, he had promised to scrap it, which would have meant that workers would stay on the lower tax rate, 32.5%, until they earned $200,000 a year. But now keeping it means he can now steal more money back from taxpayers from bracket creep, as inflation and pay rises push workers' wages up into the 37% tax bracket that is keeping. And that is going to be worth billions to the government. More money from taxpayers, quietly taken every year like a thief in the night. Now, Stage 1 and 2 tax cuts for the less well-off, they've already gone through. The Stage 3 cuts have actually been the law since 2019, even if they're supposed to only come in this year. But because they are the law, Albanese now needs to change that law in Parliament to make all these changes. And straight away, a problem. The Greens today said no. They want to cut even his cuts.
As this now works its way through the Parliament, we'll be asking, is this really the best that Labor can do for low and middle income earners in the middle of Labor's housing and rental crisis?
So whether they go through Parliament depends on the Liberals, and the trap then is set by the government. Do the Liberals fight these tax changes today and then get bashed by Labor for trying to stop poor Australians from getting their extra tax cuts? Class war, you see, and that is what Albanese is counting on.
Our plan will more than double the benefit for Australians on the average income, and it will look after low-income earners and part-time workers as well. So someone working at Australia's largest employer, Woolworths, earning $40,000 will now get a tax cut of over $650. Under the Morrison plan, they would have got nothing.
In fact, Albanese's trap could backfire. The Liberals could actually say, look, it's not either or, it's both. They'll keep the Stage 3 tax cuts in full, as promised, as passed by Parliament, and match Labor's extra tax cuts for the poor. Sure, it's going to cost billions more, but the Liberals are the party of lower taxes, aren't they? And Labor, the party of liars.